Hello, my name's David, and I thought I'd give a little introduction to the channel, why we're here, and what I hope to achieve with this. We'll be talking about some homesteading, some farm life, some projects. We're rebuilding a couple of houses, and we'll be talking about that, as well as some issues around life and transitioning to a new phase. As a little background, been working 30 years in analytical chemistry, and Thanksgiving of 2018, I was working on a house, had a vaulted ceiling, and I fell off the ladder. I was about 12, 14 feet off the ground at the time. I landed on my back and bumped my head pretty. So I was out of work for a bit and had a lot of pain. I was on some pain pills for many weeks, and during that time I was having these dizzy spells, which I attributed to pain pills. After I came off the pain pills, after I eased off of them, I was still having issues with dizziness and balance. There would be times when I could not walk without stumbling and falling over. I also started having vertigo attacks where the room would start spinning and just spin like that. I'd get nauseated, break out in a sweat. This was happening every 2-3 weeks, and eventually had to tell work that I didn't feel that it was safe for me to be in the lab anymore. When you're walking down an aisle between benches and you start running into the side of the bench, you start stumbling and falling, and luckily I was always able to catch myself. But considering some of the compounds we were handling and the hazardous chemicals I would be carrying around, I thought maybe that it would be best if I was not in the lab. So I went to my boss and told him what was going on. Asked if there was some sort of desk work I could do until I could get some treatment, and they said no. Even though most of the work involved there dealt with a lot of documentation, a lot of writing of methods, writing of procedures, doing reports, that sort of thing. They did not feel that they could put me on a desk doing that full time, even though it would take some of the load off of everyone else and let them stay in the lab longer. They did not want to provide a special consideration. I went out on disability, short-term disability. Found a doctor. Went to the Ohio State University traumatic brain injury group there. They did some tests, put me in physical therapy, occupational therapy. They found that my eyes and ears were not communicating with each other, and that one of my eyes was not following the other as it should, and so that disconnect, that conflict in signals between the eyes and between eyes and the ears were the cause of the dizziness. Went through several months of physical therapy and occupational therapy, and things got better. I was still having the vertigo attacks, but the dizziness, it did improve. Rather than stumbling several times a day, it eventually got down to a few times a week, and it leveled off. As well as the dizziness when walking. I can accommodate that at home. I have fallen into a wall several times. I have fallen outside and fell to the ground a few times. I get back up and keep on going. That is the way of it. I'm still not back at work. My short-term disability and the FMLA protected job status expired several months ago. So now I'm on long-term disability. Got a call the 20th of December, 2019, saying that they terminated my position. I'm still getting disability. Not sure how long that will last. I'm still seeing the physician at the Brain Injury Institute, and I'm also seeing a neurologist. The neurologist has diagnosed my vertigo as vestibular migraines, and he gave me some medication to try to address that. It's not working. I'll see him again in February. Emailed him a couple of times, and he says, well, let's keep on the medication until our next meeting, and then we may change it over to something else. It's not a good feeling. That's the situation. I'm currently out of work, on disability. Honestly, I don't know that I will ever be able to go back to work. And that's one of the issues I'm facing. Having worked for 30 years in a particular profession, and having a condition where you can't work in that profession any longer. The path forward along that line, I don't know. And if you want to follow me on that journey, please subscribe, and we'll keep updates on what's going on there. In the meantime, I'm working on 2 houses, trying to get one rebuilt, finished, remodeled in Columbus. My wife works as a teacher in Southeast Iowa, and I couldn't find a job in Southeast Iowa. We've been married about 3 years. After we were married, I couldn't find a job in Iowa. Tried my own business for a while, and that didn't go over well. There was not much need for 3D scanning in Southeast Iowa, so that did not go over well. Decided to go back to work and find a job somewhere where she could transfer her teaching license. Found one in Columbus, Ohio, and moved here. At the time, I looked around and saw that older houses, mortgage for an older house was cheaper than rent at an apartment. So I decided to buy an older house to fix it up and maybe flip it a little while later when we're finished. Maybe live in it, fix it up and live in it for some period of time. But that was assuming I was going to be employed during the period of time. And what I could do, I would work on, and what I couldn't do, or as we could afford it, hire someone to come in and help out. Without a job, it's all up to me now. We have, wife and I, after we first married, bought about 6 acres of land out in Southeast Iowa. We both wanted to do some farm homesteading most of our life, so we thought that'd be a good opportunity to do so. Of course, the plan was to take our time and get it set up over a number of years while I was working, and had some income to support that. Everything out there is being done on a cash basis. It's all paid for. Paid cash for the land. We paid cash for the building. We put up a metal building for use as a workshop and barn. Now we're looking at converting that to living space, and we'll be living in it until we get the regular house built. We want to get in there quickly so that we can sell her house in town and get out from under that mortgage. And if we get out from under that one, we get out from under this one, then we won't have a mortgage to pay. Thankfully, we're free of credit card debt. That was something I was able to pay off and get out from under while I was while I did have a job. So that's the good news. But really, the decision is, where do I go from here? Do I try and find a job? I'm 66. Do I try to find a job? Do I start another business of my own? Do I retire? I always said I would retire when they pulled me out of the lab and I couldn't work anymore. Well, I can't work anymore, so maybe it's time to retire. That's going to be a dramatic decrease in income. Hopefully we can accommodate that without any debt. Just utilities and living expenses, those can be controlled, hopefully, between my wife's salary and what little I get from Social Security. We'll be able to make it. Along the way, we'll get into some life stories. I've had an interesting life, as some people put it. Lots of trials and tribulations. You'd think that after all this time I would have had a good 401k set up. No, I didn't. It seems that if you change jobs, you don't vest in the employer contributions, so you only have what you put in there. And I like to work for small companies, small startups, entrepreneurial type companies. They get bought and closed down. They go out of business. And if you're not there and not vested, anything they might have put in, contributed, is gone. They also don't tell you that some investments will be worth less than half of what you put in. So I was told to buy a good diverse portfolio, buy some mutual funds, and let them sit, let them work for you. Well, no, don't do that, guys. That's about where I am, and a little bit about the journey that I'm going to be putting out here. We'll be getting into homestead videos. I've got a lot of infrastructure to build. We'll be getting chicks and ducks and geese and goats and pigs, and we'll be building housing for them, feeding stations for them. We have some unique challenges in the land. Most homesteaders you see on YouTube are flatlanders. They've got a nice flat piece of land to work with. They've got 100 acres or so, some maybe 10, 12 acres. But it's a nice flat land where you can put a nice garden out and not have a problem. The land we have is relatively hilly. I bought it because the intent was to put a dam across a couple of the hills and make a little pond down there for waterfowl and fish. We haven't done that yet. Again, the intent was to do that with the money coming in from a good income. That has changed, and the dam may have to wait. So we'll be homesteading on a slope, which offers some unique challenges and is not something you'll normally see. I've got some little different ideas on how to do things. I've got a couple of designs for beekeeping, that new hive designs that you might be interested in. I'll be working on a chicken tractor, built a bunch of robots and automated systems to do analyses, and with that background I see opportunities for automating feeding and watering and animal care, so we'll be looking at trying some of those. But we'll see. You never know. You never know. That's why it's nice to watch, to follow videos like this to see what doesn't work as well as what does, and I'm sure we'll be getting into some of that. So if you'll hit the subscribe button, you're going to see some more of this. You like what is coming up, hit the subscribe button if you want to be notified. I will not be putting out daily videos, probably weekly or so, maybe 3 or 4 times a week. So you're not going to be inundated with notifications. If you want to click on that button, and if you like what you see, click that like button down there, and that'll be good enough. See you next time. Bye.